What's a new crew? If you're new, my name is Cassandra. Today we're out in the orchard. I'm going to give you guys a very quick orchard tour slash garden tour for the 2025 season. Things are a lot smaller this year, and I apologize for being out of breath. My due date has come and gone, and it's just part of my everyday life right now to be out of breath. So hopefully that'll resolve soon, but let's go ahead and hop in and show you guys some really exciting things that are happening in the orchard and in the new garden space. The first really exciting thing is that the gooseberries have some gooseberries on them starting to form. Really exciting. We're very excited about these. We put these in last year and we got to sample them. So we're hoping that we get more this year. You can see this is a second plant here with some more berries on them, and then we have another line of gooseberries here. None of these produced last year, so we'll see if those get any berries on them this year. The other berries we have coming in right now are honeyberries. Honeyberries are really cool because, like the gooseberries, they're one of the first producing fruits, and they're really good for our zone. We live in 4B, and they're good all the way up into zone 4. So they're really delicious. In my opinion, they taste like the cross between a blueberry and maybe like a grape. Everyone will give you something a little bit different, but they taste really good and we really like them. These ones are really small. We planted these plants last year, but they will get bigger and more delicious and more prolific, obviously. We did a new planting method this year just because I am very pregnant. I'm gonna have a new baby all season. So we laid down some landscape fabric that we already had from when we planted the orchard last spring. And we planted our tomatoes in between all of our trees here. And then we mulched over the top of them, trying to prevent them from getting just obliterated by the sun. Some of these I did have to replant. We started these tomatoes together, and some of them took a really big hit, you'll see, but these are some of our yellow variety of tomatoes. You can see they're not looking as healthy as some other ones that are maybe down here, but and then I did have some that just completely died on me. The sun took them out, so I did go down to my local greenhouse and repurchase cherry tomatoes, mostly because all of my cherry tomatoes died. So we have some yellow pear, which we really like, and the ones I got from the greenhouse are starting to flower a little bit, which is exciting. But we have a batch of tomatoes here, another batch of tomatoes here. These are mostly all cherry tomatoes that I got from the greenhouse. So all of the ones that we planted except this one right here, and this one's it's trying to come back, but I don't have a lot of hope. But I left it in the ground and we'll see how it goes. One more batch of tomatoes here, and then we have another batch over here. Those are the ones that took the biggest hit. And unfortunately, these are all my sauce tomatoes. I left one in the ground to show you guys what I mean when I'm telling you they got obliterated by the sun. It just got scorched, completely dead. So pretty much all of these are replanted except a couple on the end here. Those are the Abe Lincolns that we started in the milk jugs. Some of them look, once again, really, really, really rough, but I think they're trying to make a comeback. So I left them and we'll just kind of see what happens. And then my husband planted a grape plant on the end here, and the plan is to just have it kind of grow up and down the trellis, obviously. Normally, I would be really devastated by the fact that my tomatoes didn't do very well transplanting. But the thing is, I have a ton of space left in the garden over here. You'll see that in a second. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with it. So a big part of me is telling me to just leave it and not do anything with it. Another part of me is telling me to go down to the greenhouse and fill the space with some of the Amish greenhouse really cheap starts. Another part of me is saying to just go get all of my random seeds that I have and chaos garden it and just throw a ton of seeds down, see what sticks, because some of those seeds are getting really old, and let's use them before they're just like super old and I have to throw them away. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. I also have onions that I could plant there. So I don't know, lots of options. I'm just trying to figure out which one is the best for me this season. But my mother-in-law, my father-in-law, they plant a garden, like a big garden, biannually. So one year they'll do just enough to do fresh eating, and the next year they do a really big garden and they'll can for 2 years worth of food. When they put in their big garden, they always have a ton of extras, and they're always bringing me bushels of things. So that being said, because it's their big garden year and I know that I'm going to get bushels of their extras from them, I'm not really worried about having the biggest garden ever, because what I need, I can trade with them. Like if I have excess of things, I'll give them like a bushel of snap peas, they'll give me a bushel of tomatoes or something like that. Trading back and forth, or I'll give them some duck eggs, some chicken eggs or something, just because I don't like to take anything without giving something back, because I just can't do it. But let's show you guys just a really quick view of the garden. Let's just start in this little teeny tiny row here. These are all like slicing cucumbers. I've had to replant these 3 times because they keep dying on me. We had a really weird start to the season. It got really warm, and then we had like a whole week and a half where it froze, and it was after our last frost date. So my cucumbers didn't make that freeze, so we replanted these. This is the space that is completely open all the way down to kind of the end of that tarp there. And I decided that here I put 2 really thick rows of sunflowers just to kind of fill the space, and they are starting to come up. You can see a whole bunch of them here. A couple maybe in the back row there. I opted to plant them way thicker than I normally would because we have a ton of ground squirrels that live in the orchard, and I know they're stealing my seeds and they're eating some of my plants. We'll talk about that here in a second. But I planted them really thick so that if they did steal a bunch of seeds, I would at least have something. So this space after the sunflowers all the way through the end of the tarp is completely empty, and that's kind of where I'm thinking I could chaos garden a bunch of just random seeds and see what sticks. Behind me here in this space, we planted a bunch of sweet corn. I didn't plant nearly as much as I thought. Originally this whole space was going to be dedicated to sweet corn, but I found out that the Amish greenhouse that I get all of my starts from also started a co-op this year. They've never done it before, but they sell, or they're going to be selling, sweet corn for $33 for 100 ears of corn. That is a fantastic price. So, at least in my area, it's a really great price. So we decided, I already bought some of the corn seeds. I planted out what I had and did not go to buy anymore. And I just signed up for the co-op for like, I think we did 250 ears of corn. Hopefully that'll get us through a year's worth. I don't know, we're gonna see, but really excited about that. So I'm just gonna let the Amish grow my corn, save this space for maybe something else, take something off of my plate this year, and we'll just, whatever pops up here, we'll just use as fresh eating and just as like something fun for us here. Heading down row number 2, these are London's dahlias. She's loving them. We didn't know what colors they were because she purchased these as starts from the Amish greenhouse, but she got a good variety. She has a red one here. No. It looks like she's gonna get a purple one. And then on this end, she has this really beautiful like pink and yellowy white one. No. And it looks like this one might be yellow and pink, but very exciting. These are beautiful. Right on the end here, we're all watermelon. You can see how well that worked out for me. Watermelon never does well for me. I'm not gonna do watermelon anymore. I'm just not gonna plant it. It never works out. Here we have pickling cucumbers in this section. We've got a couple plants. Some of them died, but they're just really small at this point still. Things are still pretty stunted just because of the weird start we had with the really warm weather and then the freeze. So things are really about a month behind here, honestly, in the grow season, just because of that really weird late frost that we had. Here we have a pole green bean that is just starting to come up. The other thing I considered is in some of these spaces to just do a big second planting of beans and snap peas. So I don't know, like I said, I have so many options. Over here are all of our snap peas, a couple different varieties we have here, but those are starting to come up as well. These are 2 more varieties of green beans. These ones I planted a little bit later. These green beans are just kind of starting to poke through the surface. You can see like some beans there. I think the ground squirrels kind of are digging up and making a mess of things, but that's just kind of how it goes. We've got some onions here, and I do have more that I could plant. I have more onions in the raised beds that I'll show you, so I don't really know if I need to plant more. 2 more rows of green beans here. These are all my sweet peppers, and you can see we have a deer that is jumping the 6-foot fence around the orchard, and he's topping, or she, whoever, is topping some of my things here. So you can see some of my peppers, like one, that one over there, this one here, they ate like down to the ground. Same with this one, and it's struggling to come back. That one there. We were only allowed to put up a 6-foot fence around our orchard. We live on an intersection, and due to like zoning and the laws for the fence, we could only have it be 6 feet just because we live on an intersection and there needs to be clearance. There can't be anything blocking the intersection. Even though the fence never would have blocked the intersection, I understand the zoning laws and things like that. They're there for safety. It has to be a thing. And you're never going to win against zoning laws, so we could only put up a 6-foot fence. Ideally, we would have liked to put up like an 8-foot fence, but the deer's jumping and now nothing in here is safe. It's starting to eat some of the trees. So now we're kind of plan B-ing things and trying to figure out what we need to do to stop that from happening. So you'll see the deer ate a couple other things on this end of the garden, but we might have to put up an electric fence maybe. That's kind of what we're leaning towards. And here's our 3rd and final row here in the permaculture orchard. On this end, I have all my cauliflowers, and you can see it really took a toll. The ones on the end here. I don't know if they're going to come back. If they don't, they don't. It's not looking like they're going to, but I do have some extras in here. If it had to eat any of my brassicas, I'm happy it was the cauliflower because we don't really do a lot of preserving with that. We just kind of eat it fresh. This is broccoli. We've got a bunch of that in here. Some of these were looking pretty rough as well. Just from like the sun, there were also getting eaten by some sort of bug, but I think that has stopped. And hopefully they're starting to look a lot better. Like I said, we're about a month behind on things, so I'm trying to be patient. This is our cabbage bunch here. Lots of sauerkraut going to be going down, so really excited about the cabbage. We've got some different lettuces here. Also very excited about this for all of the salads and things. These are all zucchini. I know it looks like a lot. Last year I planted not a lot of zucchini, and they all got eaten by a squash vine borer, and I got like 2 zucchini. So we went all season with no zucchini, which was really sad. So I kind of went overboard this season. I think I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I've already had like 4 or 5 of them just die because of all of those things that we were talking about, like the frost, the deer, the ground squirrels ate some. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 left out of like 12 or so that I planted. So I'm happy I went overboard this season. And on this end of the garden, I have all of my hot peppers. You want your hot peppers and your sweet peppers to be planted at least a little bit apart. I think they say like 50 feet or something, so that they don't get cross-pollinated and you don't get spicy sweet peppers or sweet hot peppers. So that's why they're planted kind of further apart here. But these are all of our hot peppers on this end. I have some sugar rush peaches and some jalapenos. And then on the very, very end here, we had some watermelon, and I have 1 plant left that looks like maybe it'll survive, maybe it won't. But I've got one left. It's looking rather sad, but that's okay. I didn't really expect it to do that well. So there's that. Behind me here is our raspberry patch. We have over 100 raspberry plants that we planted. And how we planted these out is we have early bearing fruit, mid-season bearing fruit, and late season bearing fruit. That way we can have raspberries kind of as long as we can into the season here. Our early season fruit are novas. They're all the way on this end and they're starting to flower. And you can see just how good some of these plants look that we planted literally last spring. So very excited about these. Now if you look here, these are all blackberries. We've got a row here. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but we have another row right up in here, and these wood chips are just not as far along as some of the ones that are back here. They're just a little bit tinier, but they're still there, they're still working. Now when it comes to trees here in the orchard, we have apple, pear, peaches, cherries, hazelnuts, and then we have some berries and some flowers planted in between all of our fruit trees. And we followed the same planting method that we did with our berries. So we have early season bearing cherries, apples, pears, peaches, mid-season of all of those, and late season of all of those. So all of our early season cherries, apples, pears, peaches are starting to put on itsy bitsy little fruits, which is exciting to see. But other than that, that's everything we have in here. I'll bring you guys over by the raised beds and show you guys what we have over there. All right guys, raised beds are not in the best condition. They really need to be weeded, but I'm kind of trying to wait. So these are all potatoes and, yeah honey, and onions that are in here. That's why I'm not really too worried about the weeds. They're not really gonna hinder too much. These are more shallots and onions, and then on this edge of the bed I had planted a ton of pumpkins to grow up this trellis, and the deer came through and ate a ton of them, and there's I think 2 left down there. We've got a couple more rows of potatoes here. But here you can see the evidence of our deer friend. Not very sneaky. But we've got another pumpkin here. Here's my tag. I got these from the greenhouse. These are just for the kids to enjoy. This whole bed is strawberries and asparagus. We had to tent it once again from our dear friend being kind of a jerk, but obviously we're not weeding this because it's tarped right now. But you can see we've got some small berries coming on and some flowers. They're all looking really good. We planted these just a couple weeks ago, which is crazy. So you can see we've got some good berries coming on. Once again, there's multiple different varieties of strawberries in here: early season, mid-season, late season. That's just how we planted everything out, and obviously this is our early season batch, and we've already got really nice strawberries coming in on multiple of these plants, which is so fun to see. This bed is just a big mosh pit of things. I have along this edge here, it's all just flower seed that we planted, some basil, and a lot of weeds you can see that need to be picked. But I'm kind of waiting to pick weeds in this bed until everything actually starts to come up. That's starting to come up. This is just meant to be like a secondary planting from what we have over in the orchard. And you can see, once again, evidence of our dear friend. We have a couple different variety of spinach starting to come up here, which is always really fun. Really excited about this. Also have a couple rows of carrots just now starting to make their appearance. And another pumpkin over here. Also along the edge of this side of the trellis, I planted a bunch of dill right there and some sweet peas here. We'll see if they come up. They might not, but we've got a couple more of those really pretty flowers here just to act as pollination, and lots of weeds on this end here.